Hi, this is Marco Pimentel. Welcome to the podcast, Someone Like You. In this first season, you'll discover founders, creators, entrepreneurs, and business owners who are passionate about creating business models with lasting, sustainable climate solutions. Composting. It's a very simple task, but studies show 72% of North Americans don't compost at all. Asked if they would be willing to, 67% say yes, but only if it was easier. Then we talk about food waste. A food waste where a country, it would have the third highest carbon footprint behind the US and China. And today we're talking about garburators, or waste disposal systems, depending on where you live. And that brings us to this week's episode. I had the pleasure of talking with Victor Nicolov. He's a founder and the CEO at Sepura Home. Sepura is a home composting system that made Times' top 100 inventions in 2020. It has a premium design, ergonomic user experience, and Sepura uses proprietary technology to divert organic waste from landfills and drain systems into curbside compost receptacles, or to make it easier for yard composting. The device is able to separate solids and liquids in an odourless bin and can attach to any kitchen sink. The idea for Sepura came to Victor when potato peels clogged the garburator he was using at the time. With Victor, we learned that garburators are notoriously unhealthy for the environment, and that Sepura's composting device could be the solution to diverting millions of organic waste from landfills and drain systems. Here's our conversation. Well, Victor, thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was, we met, I think, a few years ago, and I definitely remember. I think it was an event just prior to the pandemic.
Yeah, that's right. You and a few other people were talking. I still remember that. You guys had said some, pretty interesting things, and I walked up to you guys afterwards and kind of introduced myself.
Yeah, I definitely remember this, like, university student, calm demeanor, and then garburators. And I was thinking, how does this all line up? And I think there was this like conversation afterwards, the day after, with some colleagues being like, "Did you meet the Victor and what he's building, and like and how you got there?" And so it was. I'm glad we were able to meet, and I'm happy to be able to kind of share your story of what you've been building. So kind of just to take a step back, you're a mechanical engineer. You have a degree from the University of Victoria. Maybe just talk a little bit about your schooling and kind of what you focused on, and you have quite a little resume that you've been doing. You've started Q-Grip as well, which is a sanitizing copper, which I'm sure timing was pretty amazing with the pandemic. But I'd love to just understand a little bit about your university, what you're doing, and kind of some of the things that you were working on, just to kind of set a little bit of a groundwork for getting into Sepura.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess starting university, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I've done every single engineering type except for civil. I think I was in all of them at one point at UVic. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I always wanted to do something in business, but I was very hands-on. I wanted to build something. I love design. And I think I started off in computer and electrical engineer, and then definitely got sidetracked. Funny story. I got so sidetracked at one point, I flunked out for a year. I got super distracted. I didn't know what I was doing. The grades weren't important to me. And that was probably the best thing that happened to me throughout my university. I always think of that. It felt like the worst at the time, because they tell you have to leave for 1 year. And it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to tell my parents? And though probably the best thing that happened to me while I was an undergrad, where it really got me focused. And I decided, like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to do mechanical engineer, because I love that. I love just mechanical pieces. And then I'm going to start my own business at some point. So I knew that right away. I didn't know what I was going to do, but for a business. And then, I took the year. And when I went back in, I was straight A student for the first few semesters, and I went into A's and B's, and I got super focused. I did end up still doing a minor in astrophysics just because, yeah, I couldn't let go of that interest. I was just really into it. But yeah, that really became my focus. And I always got interested in, yeah, just new tech. At one point, there was one of my astrophysics professors. She told me about this telescope they're making in Hawaii, and it was very different from all the other ones. I thought that was so cool, and I said, "I'll take a whole semester and I'll work on this. Can you give me credits for it?" And she talked to like somebody else in the department. They brought me on the team, and I was kind of the middleman between scientists and engineers, which is completely different. The crowd of scientists and crowd of engineers. But I had done both, right? I was doing my bachelor's in mechanical engineering and minor in astrophysics, so I kind of knew both sides, and yeah, really learned a lot there. So just projects like that along the way that yeah, got really interested in.
And how would you say, like, what would be your driving force to think about entrepreneurship as well? To create these ideas and combine mechanical engineering with business. Like, what was that? What was that spirit, or what was that driving force behind it?
Well, I will say at just to begin with, I think engineers make terrible CEOs or founders. I think we are way too focused on the product and do a lot of feature creeping where we just over design and keep designing, and it sometimes is the opposite of what you're supposed to do at one point. But no, I think the driving force was, yeah, really, I didn't just like designs. I didn't just like products that really solved the problem. I wanted to create a business around it. I wanted to see what it was like to try to sell it to somebody. I mean, it's easy to create something that you like for yourself, but it's totally different to make something that most people would like, that a lot of enough people would like it, that you can actually make money from it and they pay you from it, that for it. That's the really big thing that happens when you know you've got something, is that people are actually paying for it. So I wanted to create that. I wanted to see if I could do it. I had no idea, but I think that was, yeah, the driving force is combining the two, right? Something that really solves a problem and creating a business around it.
Yeah. And so Q Grip, was that started during university, or was that done after you graduated?
Yeah, I was graduated at that point. It was, yeah, really because of the pandemic. It was, I felt like such a simple solution to a problem where everybody, you remember at the beginning, everybody was talking about, how many times should you wash your hands? Don't touch your face, like don't touch door handles, like things like that, which was yeah, huge issue at the time. And, I remember I had seen a study where a hospital outfitted, all their door handles and bed frames with copper hardware, and they had amazing results. Even, yeah, handles in the washrooms, amazing results. Like bacteria count was way down, less infections in that wing of the hospital. But then they stopped it, which was crazy to me. Why would you stop that? It was amazing. It was too expensive. The copper eventually rusted, and well, it oxidized, and yeah, it got old, and they had to replace it. Yeah, it was just too expensive, so they dropped it. So that's when I thought, well, okay, why don't we just slap a copper sticker on there? That way you can replace it very easily. It's super low cost. It's so thin. You're not really almost not paying for the metal anymore. But it has the same effect. And that's what started Kubrick.
Uh, and Q Grip is a business that you still own and that it still runs and kind of separate off the side.
I still own it. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, it's not as popular anymore. I think we had a good run. It was always meant to be a kind of short business that we started, and it was such an easy product to develop, and pretty fun, and it got us a bit of cash on the side as
Yeah.
as we were growing the main business. So
Yeah,
yeah,
very similar to vaccines. You want them when you need them, but hopefully you don't have to take it for forever. And a good business model when everybody wants them. So
Yeah, exactly. And we knew that going into it. So, and I think now it's kind of, it's dying out. So
Yeah.
our focus is going into the main part of the business now.
Yeah, so I want to just talk a little bit about Sepura now, obviously, and jump into the reason we're here today to talk about. But in 2018, you came up with the idea of Sepura. I'm guessing you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
You're in the late stage of university or postgraduate. I can't remember, but you could tell us. But how did you come up with an idea of garburators and waste disposal systems? Like where was that connection? I wasn't thinking that at that stage of my life. Later in life, I realized when I was doing a renovation what a garburator was used for, and that you had to make decisions around these things. But like, how did that transpire?
Yeah. So I was in my undergrad at the time. That's all I did in university, and yeah, I never thought I'd get into the food waste, garbage disposal worlds at all. I actually hate it. This is why it started. I hate composting, and it's just because of the odors and the fruit fly, the mess it makes. That was that was my job at home. I've been married for a few years now, and yeah, my wife, I guess, hates it even more than I do. So it's my job at home, and I would always, the process. You've got the bucket on the counter, and then you kind of wipe your plate clean into the bucket, or you've got this really great thing in your sink that you just click a button and it takes care of all the problems for you, which is amazing. So that's why I really loved garbage disposals. It's just like how easy it was to use, apart from the loud grinding noise and the blades of death there. But apart from that, they're amazing. But one day I was peeling a ton of potatoes, like a lot. It was for a party. Probably peeled like 20 or 30 of them and just shoved them all, like the potato peels. I just put them all in the sink because I've never had a problem with garbage disposal before. You just throw everything in there and take it as a challenge. I didn't know at the time that they don't actually shred potato peels. They kind of just fold them up and push them into the drain. And I know that because I had so many potato peels stuck in there. The entire piping under my sink got clogged with it. So I actually had to open it and completely empty it out. And I saw them. They're just like what you put into the sink. No shredding happened. That was just a nightmare. It was super old piping. The threads weren't coming back together, and there's like methane gas coming out because it was after the gas trap there. And it was the absolute worst. I had such a terrible time doing that I looked it up after. It's like, why can't they take potato peels? Is that by a garbage disposal? And no, sure enough, there's a lot of things it can't take. And I just love the idea of something that simple where you throw everything in the sink and then because the sink is the most convenient spot to get rid of it. And then you push a button and then it does the work for you. I love that. But the issue with garbage disposals was that, well, it doesn't always do it properly. Then I started figuring out other issues like, well, it's bad for the planet. Depending on where you live, all of the stuff that goes in there might actually just go directly into the ocean, or it has to get filtered out. And that costs a lot of money, every year. It costs cities millions, of dollars every year just to filter all that stuff out, or just clogs it before it even gets there. It'll clog it either in your house, in your building, or just further down the street. That costs millions every year as well, just to maintain that. So there's definitely a problem there.
And so you started to research it, did you come at it from a business stance or did you come at it from a mechanical engineering standpoint? Like, this is inefficient. This thing, it can't it can't crush potatoes. Why did it just clog? 30 potato peels in a night that's a lot of potatoes. But how did you attack it from a mechanical perspective or a business?
Definitely mechanical, which there's good and bad things about that. But definitely mechanical. Exactly. I was like, oh, we need, stronger blades and stuff. And I was thinking of like this dual action, like crushing mechanism that would just like pulverize anything you put in there. I was like, yeah, this is definitely going to do it. This is the way to go. I knew nothing about running a business at that point, even though I always thought I'd want to do it one day. I just, yeah, really didn't know anything, but I wanted to fix this problem. But the more I looked into it, that's when I found out, oh, well, even if I crush everything, it's still a huge issue because I'm sending all that stuff down the drain, into our wastewater system. So that was still a problem. So then that's when I started looking into, okay, what if we just separate the solids from the liquids, right? We let all the liquids go down the drain like they normally would. So then your sink wouldn't change. You can still use it like you always do. But then the solids would go into this the separate bin under your sink. But I was still crushing everything. I was still like this huge, like monster, like twin auger thing just spinning on itself and crushing everything. And yeah, I started talking to people about it. People liked the idea. They were a little bit concerned about how beefy it was under the sink, but they liked the idea of, being eco-friendly. And then I talked to cities and, they said, yeah, we've been looking for alternatives because we're trying to ban garbage disposals because of all those issues. But could you not crush all the stuff, going into people's sink? Because then if you crush it, sure, you can save a lot of the solids, but that would still send a ton down the drain, just the really small parts. And that's what really started shaping the product, where I thought, okay, maybe, it was kind of an overkill there. Maybe I just need a simple separation process that doesn't crush anything. It just separates the solids from the liquids. And then the solids go into this bin. And then some people started saying, the bin smells. So that's when I started looking into, okay, there's this other problem. Nobody likes the bucket on the counter or in your sink, right? Because it smells, because it attracts fruit flies. So that's when we started developing this technology that would block the odors. And I started visiting just huge composting plants and saw what they did over there. And they just blocked the odors with wood chips, which was very fascinating. It was huge tunnels of wood chips that they'd pump the air through it, but you couldn't smell a thing outside. And on the inside, it was, smelled like death. It was absolutely terrible. So I kind of adapted that same technology and put it into my project there to eliminate the odors.
Yeah, when I talking about the product, I remember having this discussion was, we have a compost bin, and we're fortunate where my family lives to have composting. So the city picks up our composting every 2 weeks. So we have a bin that we put out. So we have that scenario where we have a compost bin. We put all of our kind of like compost items there, and then we have a garburator or waste disposal unit, and so that's for the smaller things or however we do it. Right. And when you had mentioned that what you created was an idea of combining the two, you get rid of all of those solids, you're just throwing down the liquids. Your bin is basically there. You pull it out, you put it into your compost bin. That's where I was like, oh, this is quite genius, because I find a lot of times with composting, people are just end up being lazy. The garburator is the easy way to just get rid of everything. Just throw it down there and it's just gone. And where composting is deliberate, it's a process to do it, and you've taken out that idea. So you got this idea, you've created this product. 2020, Time magazine calls it a top 100 innovation. Congratulations. That's to go from an idea from a potato party to a Time top innovation. What did that do? I'm assuming at that point Sepura was still at a concept at that stage.
We were pretty far along. I think a lot of things have changed since, for sure. But the one, I think, if people look up the image, it will look different than what's on our website right now. But it was the same idea. It was something that doesn't crush everything. It's low powered. There's no blades in there. It just kind of does the separation, and it did remove the odors. Same idea, but we've refined it a lot since. But that was amazing when we first got the email. Of course we double check. It's like, yeah, is this a scam? Let's look up the email here. It's like, oh, okay, he's actually contacting us from Time Magazine, and of course we reply, we say, we'll think about it. No, I'm kidding. Oh, of course, yeah, we said we would be happy to be in the feature, but we weren't sure if we were going to be in it yet. So he still wrote a piece on us just about the product, got some photos from us, and we didn't find out until maybe a few days right before it was actually on the magazine. So it was really amazing to be on that. That's really the goals. So it's once we were in there, like a lot of other magazines started reaching out, TV, just other websites, tons of customers, of course. We had our pre-orders open at that time. So, lots of customers started coming in, and met some great potential partnerships from that. And it kind of just helped get the word out there. And to this day, there's still people reaching out and saying, hey, I saw you in Time Magazine, could we work together? Something like that.
Yeah. And so how did you end up launching the brand? So, because this is not an engineering feat to create this product. You have to get all the moving pieces, assemble it all together, package it up, and sell it. It takes some time to do that.
Yeah.
How did you initially get? You mentioned pre-orders or pre-sales. Did you do a Kickstarter campaign? Did you, mock it up and create a quick landing page? Like how did you launch Sepura?
Yeah. So the first thing I did is one person once told me, just like, know what you're bad at. So I knew I was bad at marketing. I had no idea what I was doing. I just came out of engineering school. I didn't even know how to run a business. So first thing I did was try to find somebody to help me out with marketing. And I was asking everybody around the university, outside of universities, I need somebody to help me out. And then I found Connor, who's still our lead marketer in the company. And he was he was a bit younger than me, and he had run a bunch of campaigns for National Geographic, for Motorola, and he was super young. I can't believe he had done all this stuff. I think he started when he was in high school, and he would just open up a Shopify business in 1 month and start selling and be profitable the month after. He was just amazing at what he did with marketing and creating a brand. So as soon as I met him, I was like, yeah, you got to help me out. I don't have any money, but you could have some shares of the company, whatever. You got to help me out. We got to create a brand. Like, do you believe in it? And sure enough, he did believe in it. He wanted to help me out. So that's exactly what happened, where Connor essentially built the Sepura brand. Of course, we had a ton of help from the outside as well, but that was really Connor building the brands. And we didn't launch on a Kickstarter, but we went to CES in 2020, the Consumer Electronics Show, which is just like, there's a whole startup section there. There's hundreds of thousands of people who go there. It's held once a year, and just a bunch of that's where companies like really release their innovations and stuff. So it's always been my dream to go there, let alone showcase Sepura there. And so we went over there, and I think a week before, somebody had the idea of, hey, aren't you going to do pre-orders at some point? I said, yeah. And they said, well, why don't you just open pre-orders at CES? I told them, you're not allowed to sell anything at CES. It's just an exhibition. But they said, like, well, you can just open it on your website. They don't need to buy it right there. I thought that's such a good idea. But I had to pack everything. We had our first unit coming in, which was just like plastic injection molded. It was such a big deal. I ended up cracking one of the parts and shipping. It was a nightmare getting there, just pulling all-nighters, getting ready for the show. And finally, I think it was held in Las Vegas. The night before, I went on my laptop and I started coding the backend to set up an e-commerce platform on the website. At the time, I was coding the website from scratch. It was just HTML and CSS and JavaScript that I'd learned a while back. So I just built it myself, and I had to build this e-commerce plugin myself because it wasn't on Shopify or anything. I just built it from scratch. So I had to connect PayPal to it. And I still remember the night before just staying up till like 4 a.m. just trying to figure this out. And finally did a few tests and it worked. And we opened for pre-orders at the show. We had thousands of people come and view our booth and stuff. We got a ton of just a ton of people walking by. And I still remember at the end of the day, I was just exhausted and we were grabbing a bite to eat at a restaurant. I hear my phone just buzzing, just keeps buzzing constantly. And I take it out of my pocket and I was scrolling through my email and seeing notifications for pre-orders, just a ton and ton. And that was that first moment where I knew, awesome, I created something that people want and want to pay for it.
Yeah, that's that moment when you realize that, oh, this is a real, becoming a real business and a real brand. Every week on Someone Like You, we dive into stimulating conversations with founders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and the likes who are consciously and successfully creating sustainable business solutions for the long haul. Tune in every week for a new inspiring conversation on leading climate solutions, and if you're enjoying the podcast, please share it. And also, subscribe to the platform of your choice and give us a rating and a review. It'd be much appreciated. So, you talk a lot about challenges when it comes to the actual product. I'm assuming you've encountered a lot of challenges while designing the device, and how has that helped to get to where you are today in terms of where the product is in and the stage that it's in? Has that helped to evolve it over the years?
Yeah, tons of. I feels like it's only been challenges the entire way. They definitely helped to develop the device. If it wasn't for those challenges and, the feedback from just everyone around me this would have been very different. I was initially creating it for myself as this giant pulverizing machine, and I didn't care about the odors because they would just go into the drain. But just running into those issues and getting that pushback from cities, from customers, like, yeah, we don't like the smell, or no, keep it out of the drains. It's all of those challenges kind of shaped Sepura to what it is today with what we're launching with now, where it's this nice, quiet machine, super low power, doesn't need water to run. And it works with just kind of a spinning screw that just pushes things along, a filter that does the separation of the solids and liquids. Just all those challenges kind of got us there. And those were all the technical ones. Then there was challenges on the business side where I didn't know what I was doing, which could have been a good thing. It definitely got me focused on the product a lot more, which was great for the first year. I think that was awesome. I wish I even spent even more time on it, but and then of course the customer feedback when we opened our pre-orders, people started asking questions. Of course, now they paid, so right, they're going to ask questions. How do I install it in my sink? Right? How much power does it take? How is it going to work? Things like that. So all of this, kind of still helped us improve. At that time, the product was kind of, it is what it is now, but it still helped us realize things like, oh my God, we totally did not think of that. Sure, we'll add that on the design. So it's all those things helped with it for sure.
So how would somebody use Sepura in a new install or a replacement of a waste disposal system or a garburator system, and what would be essentially the benefit? We've kind of touched a little bit on it, and obviously it's very simple once you see it visually. So right. I'll definitely add a link to the show notes and allow people to just click and visualize this. But you mentioned a screw, but in general, how do they install it, and what's the benefit of somebody using this?
Yeah, so I'd say if you're replacing a garbage disposal, that's the easiest because we've made all the connections similar. That's actually some of the feedback we got from plumbers. So I would just stop plumbers in Home Depot and ask them like, hey, what would you do with this? So that's what created that, where it's all the same connections. So it's really just a twist under your sink, unplug, and then twist with the piping, and then you remove your disposal, and then you add Sepura the exact same way, just the other way around. So it's yeah, it's pretty quick in that way. Otherwise, you install it the same way you would a disposal unit, and uh, yeah, that's kind of it.
And waste disposal units are often either banned or looking to be banned in a lot of municipalities. I think you touched on the fact that what you send down those pipes are often have to either be filtered, so intensifies energy usage, filtering usage, or it goes unfortunately right into the ocean in some cases. So, how does Sepura deal with that? And then what are some things that you just wish people knew about waste disposal systems that, I think people probably just inherited when they buy a house, or they just think like, oh yeah, we need one. So let's just, get a plumber to install it. So how would you address that?
Yeah. Well, okay. So first I'll run through the process. Like if you've got a Superior unit at home, this is how you would use it. So it's all tucked under your sink, just like a disposal. And, it's set. The difference is you now have a bin under your sink as well. And it's got four LEDs in the front, and that shows you how full it is. But apart from that, it's all sealed because, yeah, you don't want to see it or you don't want to smell it. So yeah, say you're cooking, you've got some onion peels, whatever, banana peels, and it's on your counter. You can just wipe all of that into your sink. You don't need water to run it down the sink, although you can if you want. You also have a button on your counter. Some disposals have that, but that you really have to build in the kitchen. You got to drill a hole through it, and it's got to get wired in and things like that. Ours is just like this wireless button that comes with an adhesive. You can stick it wherever, whether it's on the cabinet, on your counter. So yeah, so you'd wipe all that food waste into your sink when you're ready, when it gets clogged up or whatever, you want to get rid of it. You just push that button and you can walk away at that point. You don't need to stand beside the button or something. It'll turn off on its own. Um, it is smart. It actually connects to Wi-Fi. We've noticed there's a ton of improvements that we could make with software on this thing. So yeah, you push the button, walk away. If you did drop a fork in there by accident, it's not gonna sound like what you imagine it sounding like with the disposal unit. So it'll actually stop, let you take it out, and then keep running again. So yeah, and then when it comes time to emptying it, you can slide the bucket out from under your sink and put a lid over it, so you still don't need to smell it, and then dump it in your curbside pickup bin or your yard composting, wherever you get rid of food waste. So that's kind of how it works. And because of that, because of all those solids get kept out of the drain, that's really what Sepura solves. Is it's different from garbage disposals because it doesn't send all of that down the drain. So what that does is no more clogs, which cities love. That's whenever you see a city digging up a hole in the street, there's a big chance that they're doing that because they have to clear up piping, wastewater piping, because it just gets clogged. And that just happens from, food waste over time just accumulating. And they kind of, yeah, it's not fun, and it costs a ton of money. So we're saving those issues, and also just further down the pipe where it either gets thrown into the ocean or it has to get treated somewhere. So we're saving costs there. And lots of people with septic tanks love this as well. A lot of our pre-order customers have septic tanks. So yeah, it just keeps all of that out there. And it's just as easy to use. You throw everything into the sink, right? And with a push of a button, it takes care of things for you. That's really what I wanted to create. And it's much quieter. There's no blades in there. It's not going to chop your whole hand off. Although I still don't recommend putting your hand down there. But I have gotten my hand stuck in there a few times, and it's fine. It'll pinch. It'll stop. Back up. But yeah, that's really the difference.
Yeah. Well, and I love for myself, what I love about it is the aspect of easy composting. It's
Yeah.
it's very easy composting, and I wanted just to touch on that a little bit as well, because I think there's articles that food waste is the third largest carbon, has a third. If food waste was a country, food
Right.
waste would be the third largest emitter of carbon. It had the third largest carbon footprint. And so
Yeah.
it's an absolutely massive problem because food waste gets thrown into the garbage, and when it decomposes, it's creating methane, which obviously is about 25 times more potent than as a carbon emitter. So, how does Sepura handle that outside of? I guess it really comes down to better composting or easier composting and just making it easier. So, how would you
Yeah.
say Sepura kind of connects to the larger problem of climate?
Yeah. I mean, food waste it's definitely, it's a huge problem in the world, not just at home, but just like in grocery stores. And I think ours is just part of the solution where preserving food waste is definitely the way to go. And with Superior, you can do it at home. Um, there's a lot of things you can do with it afterwards, depending on where you live, right? So sometimes it'll be used as soil amendments. All good for food, for regrowing food. You can create energy with it as well. So and there's more and more businesses coming up, with ways to using it, and more curbside pickup availability. It's almost doubling every year, globally. So it seems like it's definitely the way to go. And Superior just helps people at home do that. Like you were saying, Marco, it's not fun using a bucket on your counter. It's messy and it smells, and the carburators, or garbage disposal is just so much easier to use. So it's for those people. It's for people like me, really. This is what I wanted, where, I love the ease of use of just throwing everything into a sink. So that's what Superior, brings to you. And I think it's also part of a bigger solution where businesses need to start making things like this that are eco-friendly competitive with what's already out there. It's, a bucket in your sink I don't see that as competitive to the garbage disposal. But it's way better for our planet. Sadly, most people don't use that bucket because it's hard to use. So I think businesses just need to push more towards product alternatives that really help the planet out, that the same amount of people that were happy to use the last product are happy to use this one too. So you don't necessarily push it out as an eco-friendly product. It should be just, this is a valid alternative. It'll also save our planet. And I think, Superior is a part of that as well.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, from a price point and a competitive standpoint, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to bring innovation. And when you're making that decision, it really comes down to getting this product in front of more people and branding it so that people understand that, okay, you're going to buy a waste disposal system. Why don't you just buy Sepura? It's smarter. It's
That's right.
easier to use. It's better for the environment. It's better for municipalities. But price point at this, maybe you might pay a slight premium, or you can maybe touch on that. But ultimately, what you're creating is innovation that allows people just to make a natural decision, similar to electric cars. I think we're
Yeah.
starting to see that with electric cars, where you get the benefits of driving an electric car. You still get brands that you love, and price points are starting to come down. Where why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
It's a
That's right.
natural and easy decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you go from for people that are thinking about ideas or startups? How did you start funding this? Was there a lot of grants? You obviously did pre-orders at CES. How did you start doing that?
So funding initially was, that was grants. It was mostly all grants and competitions. When I was starting, because I knew nothing about business. One of my engineering profs told me about this incubator at the university. Um, and put me in touch with some people at the innovation center there. And when I got there, they told me, you can join competitions, you can pitch to people, and there's some money there. And I remember my first competition. There was actually one of our potential customers, as one of the judges at the time. He was a building developer. And I remember pitching to them. I was like, this is what I want to create. I think we need this in the world. Also, I need a patent, and it's going to cost me $5,000 to start it. So I need to win this. And I won. I think I got $8,000. They paid for the patent, a little bit more. They gave me an office at the innovation center as well, because I told them I can't get grants without an office, because they don't want to see me hiring um, co-ops, interns, and just setting them up in my living room or something. So they want to see a professional setting. So yeah. So I got an office there. I was able to get grants to get some help on the electrical and software side, which is something I wasn't as comfortable with, and that's really how it started. And then once we got something really put together, we did an initial angel investment round, and then I guess you can call it a pre-seed round afterwards. And yeah, that's what's been funding us so far.
Yeah. And so where's Sepura at today from, product standpoint or distribution? And then a larger question just is, where do you see Sepura in the next 3 to 5 years? Like where do you see it in the market and as a brand?
Yeah, so today, come a long way. I really thought this would be, shipping already by now, but there's always things that come up. So today we've got a finished product. We're setting up manufacturing, which we're learning all the headaches of doing that on its own. But with the pandemic and shipping issues going on globally, we keep getting pushed back. But yeah, we're currently setting up production, and we're receiving production samples at the moment. Just kind of approval, designing the box. Really cool. We're designing this kind of eco-friendly packaging, kind of padding on the insides where it's molded pulp, so it's just made from like just scraps of recycled cardboard, just kind of watered down and then mashed together to make a shape. So it replaces styrofoam. So just doing all those things, that's what we're right in the middle of at the moment. And we've got a lot of pre-orders. We've got interest from a large retailer in Canada. So a lot of people waiting for us to ship this product. So we're just pushing this as fast as possible. And in 5 years, I hope, just like the garbage disposal, I hope that, we'll everyone listening to this will either have one installed at their place or just know somebody that has one installed at their place. So we really want to get into the North American market. Australia's been, we get an email from Australia every month or so, just asking about this product. So it's a big market there, but Asian market as well, and in Europe, definitely lots of inquiries coming from there. So we're looking at being global at that point.
Yeah. And so right now, if people were curious, where would they be able to do a pre-order? Where could they find you? And again, we can add links and stuff to the show notes. But where are they able to find Sepura?
Yeah, so we do have pre-orders going on right now, or depending on when you're listening to this, but you could also just buy one on our website. We have no plan to shut that down. We'll be keeping that open, so they can go on sepurahome.com. So that's SEPURA home.com.
Yeah, fantastic. I think I've mentioned it to you. I'm a huge fan of the book, The Lorax.
That's right. I have it. I think I have it.
You have it?
Oh, it's in my desk bookshelf. I keep it. Yeah, I keep it by my work.
Yeah, it's a good story, and I tell it to my two boys, and I love reading it. They probably say, "Dad, why are you always reading this thing?" But ultimately, it's a story of overuse of our resource. They find a beautiful tree, they get bigger and bigger, they keep cutting all of them down until there's basically nothing left. But at the end of it, it's how a simple child with a seed can change an outcome, and a lot of people just ask what can they do, I'm obviously we're doing these show just to hear stories from people like you, but in your opinion, what can people do or businesses do to make that kind of first step when it comes to our climate, our resources, our environment?
Yeah, I mean, first, there's lots. There's so much that you can do if you just Google it. There's so many things, but I always thought it was almost unfair to ask individuals to completely change their lifestyle while, most of these problems are coming from huge corporations, just large factories, like things like that. Those are really the big CO2 emitters in the world. And I think businesses needs to change first, and then of course both sides are important, right? You have to change that approach at home as well, but I think it needs to start with uh, with, businesses. And I think the way they do that is what I was talking about earlier, where you kind of have to make the alternative comparable to what was already existing before. I don't know if you remember the electric car when it first came out. They were terrible. Nobody like, it really looked like an electric car. And that's, they kind of died down for a while because of that. It really, really looked like an electric car. They weren't cool. And then all of a sudden, Tesla or Fisker comes along and says, this is a really dope car. It looks like a sports car. It's amazing. Oh, it's electric also. And people went crazy for it. And they took something that people already liked, but then they made it eco-friendly, as well, right? There's no CO2 emissions. But then there's also the problem of, okay, if today everybody decided to scrap their current car and bought a electric car, that would be an even bigger problem, because now you've got the CO2 emissions of, creating all those electric cars in the first place. So I think there needs to be more businesses who adapt current technologies as well. So just that the mindset of giving a powerful alternative, but also just looking at adapting to an already existing system. So for example, like trucks on the road just doing shipping, that's got a ton of emission as well. But maybe instead of scrapping those, maybe changing those to a hydrogen version where you use an existing structure. You don't need more CO2 emissions to develop that, but you change it to a hydrogen truck, and now the emissions are water vapor, and it's awesome. So more adapting to what current system there is, and that's kind of what we try to do with Sepura, where we give them a cool product. I mean, it's got LEDs in the front, connects to Wi-Fi, like it's a smart product. But it just looks good. It's nicer to use, and it's a competitive pricing. And, but at the end of the day, it is also eco-friendly, and we adapt it to a current infrastructure where, if you have a septic system, cool. It works with that. It keeps the food waste out of there. Our current wastewater treatment plants, there's a lot of stress on those because of garbage disposal. So we kind of adapt to that and kind of keep that food waste out of there. And yeah.
Yeah, it's a great answer. And I think consumers obviously will consume. And I think, we need to probably look at the way we consume things. But businesses taking that lead and that responsibility. And I think it was Ogilvy, which is, I think, one of the largest advertising agency, actually created the term carbon footprint. And they created it for cool. BP oil.
Wow.
And they did that because of this, it like you said, it makes the consumer feel like it's our carbon footprint. It's our individual aspect of what we do. And it's a brilliant, I'm in marketing and branding, so it's a brilliant term, and it's obviously been adopted, but you're right. The larger businesses and the businesses that are producing things that we consume, it needs to happen also on a larger scale. So it's both sides. I think consumers will consume, and we have to reduce it. But I love the analogy of just grabbing a Sepura versus a waste disposal system, and it having the benefit and being better. And ultimately, that's where we want to be. So. Victor, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. It was
thank you.
Great to learn, and I encourage everyone to just check it out, visually go see this, and grab a pre-order, and support Victor and the team at Sepura, and all the best as you build this out.
Oh, thank you very much.
This podcast is co-produced with The Brand is Female. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Someone Like You. And if you did, please share this. We're a new podcast, and I would love it if you could share it with a family member, friend, colleague, work colleague. Share it on Slack, whoever you do. Just share and spread the message of these incredible brands. Please also support these type of companies. They're doing the hard thing, and the hard thing often takes a lot of people to get on board. And don't forget, please subscribe on the platform of your choice and give us a rating and review. I'm Marco Pimentel. Thank you for joining us today For more information on Someone Like You, you can find us on Instagram at Someone Like You Podcast, with all the links to the podcast, our website, and more information about the brands that we feature. Thank you again.